Hey guys, my name is Miska and welcome to Overwatch Central. Today I'll be talking about tanks and kinda the secret sauce in the tank meta to see where you can find counters for what's going on in the game right now. But before then, I want to briefly mention my passion project that I've been working a lot on this year for 8 months now, GameSentry.com. It's a website where you can have a look at microtransaction, DLC, and monetization info for upcoming and released games. You can just have a look yourself, GameSentry.com. It's live right now. This was developed by just me and a friend of mine, and then a few more friends have helped out with writing stuff for the site. So it really is just a hobby project. This is not something I'm just going to be doing instead of Overwatch Central, but yeah, I wanted to highlight it here because I figured some of you might be interested. So yeah, it's GameSentry.com. You can find everything you need to know about the site in the About Us section if you have any questions. And you can leave any feedback via @GameSentry on Twitter or info@GameSentry.com. Thank you so much for listening to this. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun to make. We'll see what happens from here. Let's get back to it. This video is going to be focusing primarily, at least, on the tank meta, as right now there are some things that I feel like a lot of us are looking past, including myself until very recently. And I want to just bring out all the characters as a whole, because often when new metas start, we begin with this sort of very narrow-minded idea of what it is, and everyone kind of hones in and focuses on that until either a team in like a tournament or something like that plays another different composition, or there is a new patch that gets people looking for new things again. So let's snap out of that tunnel vision and just take a look at what's happening across the board. To get the obvious out of the way, obviously Sigma is doing pretty well, and instead of being stuck in that new hero that people aren't sure how to play, and because of that they don't really pick him up, he's really had a breakthrough this season after being tested in the Roll Q beta season, of course. Everyone seemed pretty comfortable with him, and he's being played more and more right now. It's gone up from about 7.6% to 8.6% now. But with that, his win rate is also calming down a little bit on average. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops over time. But the main thing I want to have said about Sigma is that because of Sigma, a new sort of tank meta has formed, which obviously involves Sigma and Orisa a whole lot of the time. Double barrier just means that it's very difficult to get anything done. And additionally, obviously Symmetra has come into play because of that, both with that same comp and against it. And that creates this situation where the barriers are incredibly important, which has definitely to some degree set the scene. Now, it's important to keep in mind that despite Orisa still being a pretty prominent figure in Overwatch and the meta, Reinhardt and Orisa are actually extremely similar in pick rate. So what it comes down to is basically that playing Sigma with Zarya or Sigma with Orisa is popular, and I feel like is what a lot of people are focusing on right now, because that's what's new, that's what's hot, and that's what's kind of defining where we're at currently in Overwatch. Even on channels like our own, it can appear like the only thing happening right now is a bunch of shields and a bunch of Symmetra, and whilst that's definitely what sticks out and jumps out at you at first, there's a lot more to it, and this is where I want to talk about Reinhardt specifically. A couple things made me want to look elsewhere today and see where we can find other interesting aspects of the current tank meta, and I started looking a lot at Winston and Hammond, seeing how they were doing in the different tiers and trying to play them a little bit myself here and there. And when doing that, I wanted to also look more at Reinhardt and how he pairs against Sigma, for example, and how he actually does in that matchup rather than just looking at stats, more experiencing it in game. And that's when Ryan actually also shared this tweet from Evil Toaster. If you don't know, Evil Toaster is a tank player who used to be primarily known for playing a lot of Orisa, but now is more of a general top 500 tank player and streamer. Check him out on Twitch. He tweeted this: "Okay, here's my spicy Overwatch take. Reinhardt is secret meta counter because he does damage through barriers, and that's extremely valuable right now. And people are so hung up on what they believe the meta is that even people trying to explore options to counter it are reportable to them." And he's got this very typical clip of Overwatch competitive that I don't even think I need to play for you guys to understand what it is. But the main thing here is that this got me thinking even more about Reinhardt and focusing on him. And I've played maybe 7 or 8 games with Reinhardt today total, and I have to say it's been really interesting and really good. I think Orisa is being talked up to be a lot more steady than she actually is, especially looking at stats and at individual tiers and so on. I don't think she is in as a solidified position as some people are making her out to be. And whilst yes, Orisa is definitely strong, Reinhardt does have a lot more potential than most seem to realize at the moment. If you're a tank player and you've been a little bit sick of shooting shield with Orisa or Sigma the past few days, then definitely go give Reinhardt a try. I encourage you to not only just play him here and there, but genuinely try to find maps and situations where you are extra comfortable with this character, because honestly, Evil Toaster is kinda onto something here. And this is what I mean with breaking out of that tunnel vision of how you look at the meta. Reinhardt is doing very well, and to me, I personally am looking at something like a 70% win rate with the character so far, but it really is about playing and experiencing that matchup versus Sigma and versus Symmetra, of course, where you just feel like you have a lot more options. Walking through, swinging your hammer, you just don't really care what's in your way. It's very easy to default back to characters that have been doing extremely well previously, and that's why I think we see a lot of people just default to Orisa right now anyway. And this is also where I want to talk about Roadhog a little bit, because whilst many people are just counting him out entirely, I've even had people today say report our Roadhog for playing Hog in this meta, things like that. I really do think we're just in a much more map specific spot for Hog right now, where it just comes down to map and communication between the Orisa, and you can still make stuff happen. I've had it today, yesterday, the day before, just an odd game here and there where you happen to find a really good synergy on those characters, and at that point it really just doesn't matter. So yeah, for sure, it's a lot more difficult to play Hog when your hook gets cut off by shields all the time and things like that, but that is another thing to keep in mind. If needed, especially if you're not playing at like Masters or Grandmasters, top 500, that sort of level, then don't care too much about the meta, I guess is what I'm saying. Synergy is super important still. And that's another reason as to why I personally feel like Reinhardt is kind of the secret sauce of a Sigma and Symmetra style counter in a way. Because if there's one thing that Reinhardt is very, very good at doing quite naturally and quite easily, it's unite the team and kind of create direction. That can be a lot harder with Sigma. And when Reinhardt is in there swinging his hammer and just, you know, going all in, it's easier for teammates to kind of unite around that and play around that. Additionally, I think Zarya is being overlooked a little bit. Whilst it's obvious that she's being played a lot right now if you just look at stats, I think she's a lot more key to this whole meta than what most people make her out to be. She pairs so well with both Reinhardt and Sigma that she becomes almost more important than either of them on their own. So if you're a previous Zarya player that wants to pick up the character again and try to get back into it, now is a fantastic time to do that. And finally, I want to talk about Wrecking Ball, because this is a character that I personally really sort of turned around on. I really like Wrecking Ball. I do think it's another one of those kind of similar to Roadhog where you just have to find the right map and right situation and right team especially to play that character with. He's still very popular in GM, for example, and due to the very mobile nature of the character, he pairs fairly well with Doomfist, which I would say is one of the best characters right now, especially in the DPS tier, but just overall. Doomfist is doing incredibly well, and Hammond and Doomfist being able to zip around and just cause mayhem in the backline and with the enemy support is super helpful. Now again, obviously everything I say in this video is just kind of my opinion and not necessarily applicable to every single skill tier, but I try to talk to mostly the sort of middle 60-70% of the players rather than trying to talk about what's absolutely best to play in your top 500 games, because let's be real here, most of us aren't a GM at top 500, and talking about Diamond, Platinum and Gold is probably a lot more important. So in short, play Reinhardt. If you want to play a bit of Hog, then talk to your Orisa and create synergy there. Hammond is still pretty damn good on certain maps. Just find the right team as well to play him with. Orisa is a very comfortable tank to play right now. I'd be very surprised if Blizzard don't really nerf her a little bit further at least. And Sigma, well, I can't really say anything there. Sigma's just fantastic. But I do think it's really interesting to at least try and experiment with ways to counter this new character that we all feel like is so powerful. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.